So, welcome back to another chat with the docs. We're on over there.
Yeah.
YouTube says it hasn't scrambled us yet. That light isn't flashing. And no cease and desist letters for another week.
I'm going to want to look here, but I got to look there.
Although I did get a piñata's head mailed to me this week. I'm thinking it was because of my remarks about the vaccinations last week. Quite frankly, Pikachu's head is just not nearly as effective as a horse's head.
Yeah, a horse's head is pretty versatile. Kind of thunder.
So, this week, as you can see from the title, you is in for a treat. And if I can figure out technology, don't you wish we would have stopped at the pencil eraser sometimes? This week, we're actually going to be doing a live on the ropes Lyme assessment with a Lyme patient. I didn't say a limey. He's not a limey. YouTube and Facebook are going to nail me for that, aren't they? Anyway, a real live on the ropes Lyme patient is with us in our studio audience. And we're going to go over a Lyme assessment using applied kinesiology and then look at how we can use applied kinesiology to determine how to treat that patient. Because you don't want to just use a cookie cutter. You want a practitioner who's going to assess you, look at you and say, aha, you're a little different. And but we mean that in the nicest sense. How many times have you heard that? If I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I'd be in a different tax bracket. I'd be in a tax bracket.
Right?
So, as usual, if you have any questions, comment on the YouTube channel live or go to our Facebook page. I've got it up on my iPad, and we'll be able to see it there. We don't have anyone manning the phones today. I'm sorry. Good help is hard to hold on to. Prior engagements. So we don't have anyone we don't have a call screener. And if we just answer our own phones today, we'll probably get the phone ringing. We'll answer on the air and say, yeah, you're live to chat with the docs. And they'll say, we've been trying to reach you. Your car's warranty is about to expire. I was in Riggins, Idaho. Just a little bit of cell phone connection per day. I was in the cabin, and that's the call that got through. What was even better was when we were in South Dakota a few days later, my son got a call. No one ever calls my son on his phone except for his mother, and I had to say, where are you? And he goes, oh. And he looks around. Mom's over there. She doesn't have a phone in her hand. I'm over there. I don't have a phone in my hand. He says, it's a real phone call. He picks it up. He says, hello? And starts laughing hysterically and hands me the phone. And this robot is trying to sell my son an extended warranty for his car. He doesn't even have a bicycle. So, as you can tell, we're stalling while we get back up to our normal 3 YouTube viewers. We're at 2. We're at 2 YouTube viewers, and we're 6 minutes in. I'd say we're ahead of the game.
There we go.
How is your weekend?
This upcoming or my last? The one upcoming, I've got lots of plans. Last weekend, I was all right.
Well, considering the question was asked in the past tense.
All I'm thinking about is Friday.
So what happens Friday?
We're going to go up to Door County.
No one ever goes up to Window County or goes through Door County to the Stoop County.
First time. I'm excited.
That's cool. I've
Yeah,
never been there.
I haven't either. This will be the first time. Last weekend, that's pretty much just prepping for this upcoming weekend. Getting the pop-up ready, going through sleeping bags and stuff like that. So,
That's cool.
what about you guys?
Being the wild and exciting people that we are, we're going to take naps, and I'm going to try to install a gas stove for my wife finally.
Oh, okay.
And, honey, I'm sorry it's been so long. You've been doing great on one burner. Moving right along.
Should we bring in our guest?
Well, yeah.
Our special guest?
Our next guest is a man known all across Wahpeton, North Dakota as El Jefe. Well, not really. I don't think they even know him in Wahpeton. Do they know you in Wahpeton, North Dakota? No, they don't. Well, now they should, if one of you two are from Wahpeton, North Dakota. So we're going to bring in Ron. This is Ron, everybody. Put your hands together. Yay! Have a seat, Ron. Would you man the spotlight and shine it right in his eyes? Where were you on the morning of October 24th, 1963 at 10 a.m.? Don't worry about it. I don't even know what I had for breakfast this morning. I can't ask you that in good conscience. So, Ron, are we paying you for this appearance?
No.
Are we giving you a life supply of rice-a-roni for this appearance?
We are not receiving any rice.
Totally unsolicited. Did we find you under a bridge having lunch with Saul the other day?
You did not.
See? Ron, is it okay if we talk a little bit about your history?
Absolutely.
Ron came to me. He's been getting treated by other practitioners for Lyme disease. And he came to me a little while ago, a couple months ago, and we started to reassess and look at where you were at, reassess your lymphatics, reassess how your body's drainage is doing. And it wasn't doing that great. So that camera is really high.
Do you want me to bring it down and over here?
Sure. You guys are about to get seasick. Ron, when did you first get diagnosed with Lyme?
In 2014,
And how did you recognize that it was Lyme?
through clinical testing.
Okay. That being like a Western blot?
Originally, Western blot was
Go ahead.
going to be one of the tests, but then I had developed a bullseye on the back of my knee after I just had a major surgery for hernia.
We're a classy outfit. I'm sorry. So after a hernia surgery, you had a bullseye.
Showed up a little spot on the back of my knee. It's the first time we had actually had evidence of some type of exposure. And within 4 days, it had turned into 7.5 inches by 11 inches with a distinct ring around it. So when we went to the walk-in clinic, we saw the brochure that was handed to me looked like a picture of the back of my knee. So they said, well, we see what it is, and we're just going to treat it. So never really officially had a test.
Okay. That's actually wonderful that they went ahead and just treated you. A lot of clinics, can you raise that up just a skosh? A lot of clinics will require the blood work even in an acute phase of Lyme, which is quite maddening, actually. The handle turns?
It doesn't go any further than that.
Yeah, it does.
Like
No,
this way?
Turn, tip it. There you
Tip
go.
it, okay.
There we are.
No, I got it. I didn't know you could turn it. There, that's better.
That's much better. Boy, we're classy, aren't we?
It
You
works.
just got hooked up with not only is it low budget, but my goodness. Dollar General is going to be taking this. You know what I like about Dollar General? We don't have to get cleaned up like you have to do for Walmart to go there. Anyway, tell us how your Lyme progressed.
So what happened for me was I did the treatment, doxycycline, got better feeling in about a month. And about another month later, everything started coming back. So at that point, my wife and I, it was actually my wife, we called a doctor in Wisconsin who was a Lyme doctor, well known for it. And we made an appointment, went to him, and he introduced us to AK testing and his techniques. So at this point, when we went in,
When you say AK, you mean applied kinesiology?
kinesiology, correct. And at that point, when we went in, my wife had to drive me there. I rapidly declined to the state of couldn't get out of bed, was truly incapacitated. I could go on with a list very long of all the symptoms, the traveling pains, the brain fog, the cognitive battles, just short-term memory, things I didn't understand. Probably the best example would be taking the lid off of a peanut butter jar and my hand sticking like this and then actually cramping and curling in, thinking, wow, what is this MS? What's going on here? So my wife had to drive me there because I could not drive, I could not function. It was horrible. When I say incapacitated, I don't say it lightly. We were down.
And once you started getting treated for your chronic Lyme, how quickly did you start seeing a change in how you were feeling?
For me, pretty much, there were certain things that were immediate. Other things seemed to even be getting worse, especially the brain fog, the headaches, the throbbing heartbeat in the back of the neck, the stiffness in the neck, not being able to turn my head to the left, and then just pains down the arms, and understanding some and having some knowledge of detox, realized soon that I was experiencing those type of responses in my body to a detox. And for me, it was painful. Over the years, for me, I had a lot of exposures to a lot of different things, even chemically, and I didn't know. But I was committed to doing the protocol and didn't vary from it. And 9 months later, the first day I could step back on, because I had osteoarthritis so bad in my knees, my hips, and my shoulders, that was part of the not being able to function. And I would describe it best when I walked into that office, that I walked in not only like an 80-year-old, but an 80-year-old in very poor health, because all I could do was shuffle. And when we went through the assessment, my wife had to tell me even weeks later, because I could cognitively not even understand what was being said. So it was bad. That particular doctor, which I have so much confidence in, also said my level of health. He showed several things and went through the list, and I didn't even make the list. So I knew it was bad. The only thing I could ask is, how aggressive can we go? And so the journey began on the healing. 9 months later, I stepped on the treadmill. No pain in the knees. The osteo didn't even seem to be present in the shoulders, the hips, or the knees.
And that brings up a very interesting point, and that is, you can bring your chair in. You're part of this. When there's osteoarthritis involved, oftentimes the patient will be told, this is just the way it's going to be, you're going to have to live with it. And when I get an osteoarthritis patient, it's usually, yeah, doc, we just want you to do pain management. But you just said something that was beautifully profound, which is something that I try to convey to patients, and that is, just because you have the diagnosis doesn't mean that you're stuck with it. 9 months of treatment and you were able to get on the treadmill and you were pain-free.
Exactly.
There are hoops that have to be jumped through, but when you jump through the hoops accordingly, it works. In many cases, you can restore that structural damage. So this was 6 years ago when all of this started. If I did my math right, it's touch and go. I've got my boots and socks on. So this was 6 years ago, and you've been treating it consistently ever since, or?
I would say yes, and twice a year, spring, fall. Not really understanding the seriousness of Lyme disease. When I was first diagnosed, I began to do a lot of research on it and its origin, and just found out what a smart disease it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learning about the body's biofilm and different things there, and cycles of the moon even, and parasitic activity, all begin to be enlightening on the subject.
Right now, as we're filming this, we're in the middle of a full moon cycle. And so one of the things that I see with my Lyme patients is right about now, many of them are dealing with increased brain fog, increased anxiety, depression, pain, digestive problems. Many of these symptoms are exacerbated during the full moon cycle. And we've talked about this at length on many of our other broadcasts. It's because these critters, the parasites, these bacteria, they swell with water during the full moon cycle and they become more active. Now, what happens when a critter's more active? They got to eat more. They secrete more. So you're getting more damage done to your body because they're eating you. You're getting more biotoxin released into your body because they're defecating. And it makes your body really in tough shape during those full moon cycles. So if you're watching this and you've come to a point where you realize that there's patterns and every time there's a full moon, you feel like a truck ran over you, there's reason for that. It's not that you're nuts. Unless you're a relative of mine, then it's highly possible. It's legitimate. Unless you're a relative, never mind. So, we've been treating you for about 2 months. We've done three acupuncture treatments on you. You've seen profound results with each acupuncture treatment. You had a Baker cyst behind your right knee, as I recall. Rather significant Baker cyst. Some cyst problems throughout the body. These are because, the cysts throughout the body are because the lymphatics aren't draining. So the lymphatics aren't draining. We look to the liver. We try to dilate the liver and get that draining. And we try to increase blood supply and blood flow throughout the whole body. And for that, I'll use Chinese herbs occasionally to just take the normal base protocol and kick it into gear. But in the really fun times, when it's working great, the acupuncture is enough. So why make the patient pay for more stuff when the acupuncture is going to do the work? Acupuncture is less invasive than taking medications and chemicals and herbs and the like. But it is time to go through the assessment to see where we are with you, and you were gracious enough to even suggest that if we wanted to, we could do this recorded for posterity's sake on YouTube, provided YouTube doesn't cut us off again. But we said nothing about anybody. Saul, are you watching this? So we know that the Lyme has affected the knees in the past, the hips, the shoulders, brain fog. You also had some severe trauma back in the 90s with an accident in the upper left quadrant of your body was all basically crushed.
Yes.
So what do we know about Lyme and its co-infections? They like to take advantage of weakened areas, weakened tissues, damaged tissues. So there's going to be a lot of residual Lyme up there. A lot of Bartonella, a lot of Babesia. So let's go ahead and take a look. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to just make sure that your body's ready to be checked. When you're doing applied kinesiology is not based on magic. It's not based on energies. No, it's based on the body's fight or flight response to any given stimulus. And the body picks up on the natural frequency of the vial, which is water that is tuned to the harmonic frequency of Lyme disease, the spirochete. And we've talked about this in some of our previous episodes. Wow, we're getting legitimate enough. We have previous episodes. Wow, we could almost get ourselves a t-shirt. Just one. There's no YouTube revenue from this, so only one t-shirt. So let's start the assessment. Ron, let's have you rub your hands. And I'm going to use your right arm since your left arm's.
Okay.
Let's have you put your right arm out in front of you, thumb down. Perfect. We're just going to check and make sure that the polarity of the body is correct. 1, 2, 3, resist me. 1, 2, 3, resist me. A little switched. 1, 2, 3, resist me. 1, 2, 3, resist me. Whee! Good enough.
Are you going to change that angle to be more here?
Sure, if you want. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is try not to
Hook anything.
destroy all of our expensive equipment. Walmart's great. Right hand out in front of you. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay, 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. A little bit. 1, 2, 3, resist. 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 So, when we're doing the applied kinesiology, number one is not an arm wrestle. He's just going to be using the same amount of effort to resist each time. If you're using too much, we got a lot of vials to go through. Your shoulder, your deltoid is going to be pretty messed up. So we just, Dr. Noel saying, people never believe me when I say it's not an arm wrestle. I'm a scrawny little guy. You'll beat me up. So what we're doing is we're checking the body's fight or flight response. That first vial that we checked was Lyme. Your body's doing really well keeping the Lyme under control. Because with the protocol that you're on, it's the Cellcore Biosciences Lyme Detox. One of the foundational aspects of it is to boost the immune function so that the immune system can take over in fighting whatever the pathogen is. So in this case, the immune system was fighting the Lyme disease, and it's pretty much got the Lyme disease under control. We still have to continue to treat, but it's under control. Right hand out. 1, 2, 3, resist. 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 And 1, 2, 3, resist. Now, what we're checking here, that was Ehrlichia mix. What we're checking is, you'll see me put the vial over specific joints and over areas of his body. What we're doing is we're checking to see how intense the infection is in those areas. What do we know about Lyme disease and its co-infections? They love the non-vascular tissues. Why? Because they can hide from the immune system. The immune system's in the blood. If they'll jump in there. It's like jumping on the subway when the cops are looking for you. Not that I would know. You use it to get around the body, but whenever possible, they will get into the non-vascular tissues so they can hide out. It's also a lot more sugars in the non-vascular tissues. So, right hand out. We should have some elevator music playing. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay, that one was a little weaker, right? 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. Woohoo! 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay, that one was Bartonella. So, Bartonella is a co-infection with Lyme disease. Bartonella is another bacteria. When the body's been focusing on the Lyme disease, the Borrelia, well, they're both bacteria. So technically, it should be able to do both. But you know, when you're looking for one of the wolf boys, the other one's going to be out there doing something. That was my mother and father's experience, and now my brother is in Maine. Will, I hope the warden lets you get my letters. That's a joke for anybody watching. There's no extradition. No, never mind. So let's check another co-infection, shall we? 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. Now when we do the initial assessment, the initial test to see how sensitive he is, I'm not necessarily touching his body with it. I'm holding it off of his body. 1, 2, 3, resist. I'm just putting it in the proximity, and he's rock solid. 1, 2, 3, resist. Now, a couple weeks ago, 1, 2, 3, resist, and you'll then put the vial on areas of the body that 1, 2, 3, resist that you know are problematic, and it'll help you determine why that pain is there. 1, 2, 3, resist. So a couple weeks ago, this one was pretty rough on you, and that was the Babesia. Sounds so exotic. Oh, Babesia. This was the Babesia, and it was giving you some serious grief. You've started treating for Babesia using the appropriate herbs. It's not that big of a deal. In fact, the Bartonella is more sassy right now. So we'll go through about a month of treating with the Babesia herbs. Then we'll switch back to the Bartonella herbs. We'll reassess to see where we're at with everything and just kind of jumping back and forth for a few months. Until we can go a couple months in a row where none of these are causing a problem, at which point we'll say, hey, I think we're in remission at this point. And we can cut way back on all of these things. We continue to use immune boosting herbs just to help support the body. We continue to strengthen the kidney function and the liver function. Foundational. We work at the deepest levels of the body to provide strength. In classic Chinese medicine, well, let me say that a different way. In neoclassic Chinese medicine, they never treat the heart. The heart's considered the emperor. You never go there because who can approach the emperor? Well, when you're hired to be his physician, you have to go in. And if he gets sick, off with your head, if you're lucky. So the better, more classic approach would be treat the heart. And when you treat the heart, you're also treating the kidney and the liver. Those three all go hand in glove. So we're treating the deepest levels of the body, strengthening them to help make sure that you remain healthy. Now, we know that you have a problem with lymphatic drainage. So when we look at a Chinese perspective of how that works, the spleen is the one that governs the waterways of the body. So we want to make sure that the spleen function is in good shape. Again, tonifying herbs, but also herbs that are making sure that that liver qi is, as the Chinese would say, spreading out. So in other words, in a Western perspective, making sure that the lymphatics of the liver are opening up and draining. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but it all goes back to the same things. Right hand out, and this one's going to be fun. 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! This guy's strong as an ox. Normally I can do pull-ups when on his hands, but watch this. 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! Check your lungs. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay. Check this guy on the back here. 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! So, this is one that affects a lot more people than they realize. When I'm dealing with somebody with chronic prostate issues, oftentimes I will check them for Epstein-Barr, but I'll also check them for this, and that is molds and funguses. You got into some mold yesterday feeding your horses, and he came in a mess. And we treated, we worked on the lymphatics, we worked on strengthening the lungs a little bit, started feeling better directly on the table before all the needles were even in. Your breathing changed, your voice changed a little bit. But we know we've got a problem with mold. And this one being so dramatic, for sake of time, what we're going to do is show you any practitioners who might be watching, and I'm told there's a couple that might be, which is why we have 4 YouTube viewers instead of our, anyway. What's going to happen here is I'm going to determine which supplements are going to best work for him to start pulling out those biotoxins from the mold. So first one I start with is Cellcore Biosciences Biotoxin Binder. So let's go look at that reaction to the mold again. Ready? 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! Okay. We're going to put the vial for biotoxin in his left hand. Go ahead and close your hand around it. And in your right hand is what we're going to test with. We're going to take the mold and fungus vial and put it right up next to your chest. 1, 2, 3, resist. Ha ha! 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay. 1, 2, 3, resist. Nice and solid. From one supplement. We didn't have to go and start adding a bunch of different things. So what is it that I tell you to do when you have a mold attack? What is it I say about biotoxin binder?
Take a half a capsule, break it open into water, and drink it.
Yes, it's not the most pleasant flavor, but when you're having an acute mold attack, an acute allergy attack to mold, taking 1 or 2 capsules, opening it up in the water, stirring the sludge up and slamming it back. Some of you drink far worse. I know you do. Woo! It will start absorbing into the body immediately and start pulling some of those biotoxins from those tissues in the soft palate, down the throat, and it gets into the body immediately. And it starts working within a few moments. It's pretty wild. So that's how we check to see what supplement is going to affect the toxin, the pathogen. We test, we verify that the pathogen is a problem. Then we put the supplement in the patient's hand. And if you don't have the vial for the supplement, we can do the same thing. Can you hand me a bottle of biotoxin binder? Right hand out, please. 1, 2, 3, resist. 1, 2, 3, resist. There we go. We can put the biotoxin binder right in the patient's hand. 1, 2, 3, resist. Perfect. If you don't have all of the vials to do the supplements, or if you're not using Cellcore supplements and you still have a mold and fungus vial, I have mold and fungus vials for my NAET set. And I will often use those because I can get much more specific as to what type of mold, what type of yeast, what type of fungus. You can then turn around and either use your Chinese herbs, use your supplements if you're a naturopath, use whatever tools it is that you've got to test and see what's going to neutralize that particular pathogen. You can do this for the Lyme, you can do this for the Babesia, the Bartonella, you can do this for the mold, you can do this for toxic metals, you can do this for parasites. We can do this for tapeworm parasites, roundworms. You can do this for square worms. You can do this for triangular worms. Wait a minute, I'm thinking of my son's little toddler toys where you got the little shapes that you got to shove them through. Never mind. Oh, attention span, where have you been all my life? So that's for specific pathogens. So with you, I'm very glad that the Babesia is under control, and it's under control because you went so aggressive with those herbs. The Lyme is remaining under control, and the Bartonella is just raising its ugly head for a little bit. That's going to get smacked down soon enough. Let's check the Bartonella. Let's check the Bartonella again. Right hand out. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay, so a little weak. So let's just see about boosting the immune system with some Mito ATP. 1, 2, 3, resist. So what did we say about the Mito ATP? We were going to increase it, right?
Yep.
So just by increasing something he's already on, we're going to be strengthening the immune system enough that his immune system will be able to get that Bartonella under control. Now, once we are completely clear and we diagnose you as Lyme in remission, that's when we turn around and we make sure that we keep you on that mitochondrial function strengthened. What did I just say? That's when we try to make sure that we continue to strengthen mitochondrial function. That was much better. Using the Mito ATP, using other herbs that strengthen the immune system, Chinese formulas like jade windscreen, Lomacera complex, some other patent formulas that might be out there. Now, one of the things that always creeps up when you're treating Lyme disease is, can we get a fanfare? Epstein-Barr, right? So when Epstein-Barr is present, you can be treating the Lyme, you can be treating these other infections, and you still end up with some anxiety, you still end up with fatigue, you still end up with some pain. And so, you know, one of the downsides of this kit is it does not have Epstein-Barr. And I said that when I first bought it and opened it up, I went, oh, man. Kind of like a kid on Christmas Day that didn't get batteries with his toys. I'm a Jew. I wouldn't know what that's like. But I can imagine. But the good news is I have other ways of testing for Epstein-Barr than that kit. I have my NAET. Oh, NAET. 207. Good old 207. 207. I know dead air is not what you want, but hey, I'm an acupuncturist, not a broadcaster or a YouTuber. So, Epstein-Barr is a retrovirus. So we're going to check you for retroviruses. 1, 2, 3, resist. Okay, so that's a positive. So we know that, in fact, that was a pretty strong positive. Either that or your arm is finally getting tired. So how do we treat this? 1, 2, 3, resist. IS boost, just boosting the immune system. We don't necessarily have to get cute though. Let's see if we can do it just with the Mito ATP. 1, 2, 3, resist. Just using the Mito ATP in that double the dose that we're starting on today is going to have a profound effect on the retrovirus that you've got in you, in other words, the EBV. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about treating that. You can treat it with, can you get me herbal AVR, please, off the shelf? We can treat it by giving the IS Boost product. We can treat it by just doing that extra dose of the Mito ATP, or if you don't have Cellcore products, here's a Chinese formula, thank you, that is classic for viruses. So let's try this. And I use this one all the time for acute EBV. 1, 2, 3, resist. Solid. Try it again. 1, 2, 3, resist. Whee! See the difference?
Yes.
Put something on your hand that kills a virus or strengthens the immune system, suddenly you're strong. Now, in a perfect world, what I would do is I would kill the virus and boost the immune system. Because why waste your time? If you've got the Marines and the Army to send them both in with airstrikes, rather than just send in the Coast Guard and say, oh, I hope they do something. So, whenever possible, I try to get by with a minimum, but sometimes you've got to just go for the jugular. And with Epstein-Barr, you pretty much have to go in for as strong as possible of a reaction. That being boosting the immune system and killing the virus itself. And these things can be done. And this little demonstration here is as silly as it might seem to somebody who says, I don't believe that. It works. I use it all the time. I wouldn't use it if it didn't work. I'm a pragmatist. Can't spell that, but it's a fun word to say. So, from that standpoint, what did we discover? We discovered that Bartonella was a little bit sassy. We discovered that you're incredibly problematic with molds and funguses. And we discovered that Epstein-Barr is an issue. We also discovered that we're pretty much treating all of these things with the path that we are now on.
Yes.
And we've got things to fall back on in reserve. So if we start sliding, if we start, if we're not making the progress that we would like, we've got options to boost the effectiveness of the treatment. So if you're a practitioner and you've got any questions about what we just did, feel free to get a hold of me, info@celomecenter.com. Hero, if you're out there, and I know you are, lurking about somewhere, please put that out there on the video description. Oh dear, what can the matter be? 7 octogenarians stuck in the lavatory. Just checking messages for if anyone's got any questions. So far, no questions on this video, so that's kind of cool. Either no one's watching or we did a good job of explaining it.
I'll go with 2.
Gee, you're sweet. So, when you see your healthcare practitioner and they're using applied kinesiology, it can be very, very beneficial. You can
Absolutely.
learn a lot without spending much, because all you're really buying is the guy's time. When you start getting into blood work, then blood work can be very good and very helpful, but it can also be very misleading with false positives, false negatives, laboratory people that make mistakes. Dr. Noel, who just went back with a patient, she used to process Western blot lab tests. And it used to drive her nuts because they were so easy to mess up. That's our gold standard for Lyme testing, guys. So if we can get a very, very high percentage of accuracy using applied kinesiology, and you want a practitioner who does a lot of applied kinesiology, not someone that just dabbles in it, not somebody that's, you walk in and the beads and crystals are hanging from the ceiling. No. You want somebody that understands the physics and the physiology behind it, respects it for what it is, doesn't try to make it into something that it's not. Because those are the people that are going to be able to actually use it effectively. When you've got somebody that can use it effectively, it's a very powerful diagnostic tool. If we come back and do follow-up in about 2 weeks and ask you, how are we testing now? And we compare testing 2 weeks from now, from today, based on the recommendations that were made, we're going to have completely different results, better results. It's just the way it works. Now, people will say, it's just, you're just power of suggestion, Mo. Okay, then why does it work on my dog? I'm not allowed to practice on anyone else's dog, but I am allowed to treat my own animals. So when my own dog is having problems and I use applied kinesiology on my dog, how do you do that with your dog? Well, she sits and you do it through a proxy. And that opens up a whole other can of worms that you're not going to believe anyway. But you use a proxy, and this same process works. And a dog is not subject to the power of suggestion like we are. It's not placebo. It's solid science that works. The problem is, just like so many other things, it's been misrepresented. So, once again, hello. Once again, you've wasted a perfectly good hour with us, but I hope it was beneficial to you. And hey, look, there's the postman. Woo-hoo. I told you we were a classy outfit. So, Ron, I want to say thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
It was a blessing having you here, my friend. And I hope that